Yeah, sounds
Welcome,
good.
System 333 on air. System 333 on air again today. Actually, I've done two podcasts in a day. Of course, they're going to be released separately, but we have Selenge stepping into yoga. Have I said it correctly?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Whoopee.
Step, my business name is actually, some people think my family name, but it's a business name. Yeah.
Okay, we'll call you Seleng, and we won't say the stepping into yoga. I know that part will be a bit too long. So Seleng today is with us. She is a wonderful lady from Mongolia. She runs her own tourism company in Mongolia. She now resides in Australia and currently living in the Melbourne lockdown. She has a very interesting experience. She's been doing a lot of work on her main areas, which is yoga instructor and focusing on remedial practices and life coach as well. We've had a few different people on the show that have been doing the same things, and you guys have a great deal of value to contribute. I would like to know, how is everything going for you right now? Given that, yeah, I saw you right before the lockdown, right? Like I saw you legit 2 weeks before everything locked down. You were living in Melbourne, but you're in Sydney right now.
I am in Sydney now. Yeah. So I've lived in Melbourne for 8 years. Yeah. So yeah, I saw you before just before the lockdown. I did this for my tours. I did this expo. Yeah. And that expo went so well. And during that expo, actually that weekend, then government announced and said, okay, so we're shutting the expo down this Sunday, and yeah, lockdown starting from there. So yeah, pretty hectic.
Yeah, I know, right? So we were sitting down in Coogee enjoying a drink, a coffee, and then what? 2 weeks later, yeah, we were just told to stay in our own homes. So that was 7 months ago actually, because I'm pretty sure it was the uh, end of February or beginning of March. So beginning of March, I think it was.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So good 6 months.
Yeah, good golly, time goes that quick. So in this time, you've been doing a lot of work. Of course, with Sydney, we didn't experience such a drastic lockdown as opposed to Melbourne, which is originally where you live. So you have a lot of friends there. In fact, the way we met was through Sim, which everybody knows Sim from our travels, and he's been on my podcast before. But I want to know, so when all this happened, what was going through your mind when you first because you were running the tourism company, and we're talking about how to improve your kind of client base for tourism, getting the right people interested. What
Yeah.
happened? What happened once the pandemic hit?
So pandemic changed everyone's life, including mine. So I was very excited to run my tours, and my tour is like a yoga tour, and which is just a quite different than normal tours in Mongolia, adventure tours in Mongolia. We mostly the focus on the wellness side of it, the meditation, yoga, and looking after yourself, but then also traveling, adventuring around the country. So yeah, I was pretty excited to do the thing, and then the whole expo was really successful for me, and I had like so many people was really just ready to go with me. And at the same time, and that during that weekend, actually, yeah, we heard the news from the pandemic. So yeah, I had to obviously it was hard for me to change my plan to accept in a few days, but then it's just this thing was happening globally, so there's no point to resist. So I had to really kind of like shift what I was doing and kind of put my tour work business aside and focus on the work I've been putting off like last 2 years, which was like life coaching. I've been like learning and studying, and haven't had the courage to really step into this. But then a pandemic in a blessing in a disguise, and I had to just really start it because yeah, obviously the tour wasn't happening. Yeah, do something really, yeah, really out of my comfort zone. Same time, it's just, yeah, it's kind of like blends really well with what I do and who I am and everything.
Yeah, I've got to admit, it's a big lifestyle change, especially because, I know you like the outdoors a lot. And, kind of initially in that period, we were, forced to stay in our own homes and, getting out and about wasn't as easy. So you had an expo show, I think a week just before the pandemic for your tourism to go to
Yeah.
Mongolia. Now, it's a very interesting discussion we had when we did meet about the type of tourism that goes on in Mongolia. I don't think many people who'll be watching this have been to Mongolia or maybe have considered going. And we know Mongolian history goes very far back. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Genghis Khan and his conquest right across the globe. What is thrilling about Mongolia for people to go to? Let's just say there was no pandemic. Um, what is thrilling about Mongolia?
Oh my God, Mongolia. It's I truly believe that specific lands, you travel a lot, so the specific lands activate you or just kind of activates you, this language. I'm sure some people will understand that, like, sort of inspires you, like brings something in you, your whole being. It's not just like, oh, okay, I've done Thailand, I've done this, like it's not a checklist like this. You go to this country, it's kind of transforms you. I find that the Mongolia is it can be a type of the land for many people because its energy is such an ancient, like you mentioned about Genghis Khan's and those, like the tribal and primal energy of the land is just makes Mongolia is very, yeah, like transforming, like activating, like um and why this, like the energetically feels amazing. That land is, there is no private property, so it's like there's no one is like owns this particular land and you can't come in, you can come in, there's no that sort of such rules. It's a nomadic, whole land is free for the, like owned by by the country. But then yeah, the nomadic people, we still have a nomadic people can camp and stay wherever they want, and as well as us, like if you're traveling and you can just camp anywhere you want. It's just kind of that sort of freedom is very rare in many countries.
Mhm.
And that's what I found. It is amazing. It's just that you don't there is no, there's not much rules. You can't do once you're out of the city. It's just feels that, like the real true sense of freedom, true
Freedom.
sense of yeah, the freedom. Like, and like you will see with the, like horses, like horse lives like wild horses, and all animals live like a wild animals. They, even sheep and the cows, and there is no fences, like. So yeah, it's pretty, like for me it's a sense of freedom, I guess, Mongolia. And a lot of people, when they go there and activate that part of themselves, that longing for that vastness and freedom, in them.
Yeah, I think it's liberating to go on a trip like that into the wilderness and really kind of get in touch with nature. And I'm sure a few of the other guests I've had on my podcast have said the same thing, as they're into the same type of training, mindset, or this liberating yourself with nature. What I found interesting with Mongolia, because see, I did the Trans-Siberian through Russia. So part of when I traveled, I went from Vladivostok all the way through Irkutsk, which is the eastern Siberian side. But then you go into an area known as where the Buryatians are from. So basically Chita, all that, and this is just north of Mongolia, over the Russian border. It's not really that far if you're looking at it on a map on distance. And
Yes.
I mean, again, we could say what defines a border. Well, it's very clear that the Mongolian people also reside there and have ended up picking up the Russian language, etc. There's also another city called Ulan-Ude, which you've probably heard
Yes.
of. And
Yeah, yeah,
those of
yeah.
you that don't know, the capital of Mongolia is Ulaanbaatar. And
Yes.
yeah, the very similar type of cultures, because I stopped in Ulan-Ude. I remember when I got off the train to get a postcard there, and it was like Mongol Russia. I thought it was really cool. But yeah, what type of travelers do you think do you see usually going to Mongolia? I mean, it's not your mate, like you said, it's not people going to Thailand and Bali. What type of travelers are you predominantly seeing going there?
Mostly adventure travelers, so like people who likes horses, people who likes really going and hiking, and people who likes ancient culture. Those are the like adventurous types, not so much of a leisure travel. It's more of an adventure travel lovers place. Yeah, like I love the running the tours because I love myself really horses and hiking, like I like the whole idea of traveling with pleasure, like it's obviously there's a pleasure part of it and comfort part of it has to be there, but also the challenging ourselves through things, different activities, like some people sometimes never done horse riding or hiked the highest mountain in Mongolia. Like it can be out of their comfort zone. So it's a great way to people who considering kind of get up out of their comfort zone in a safe way.
Yeah, Kashmir is very similar. And I mentioned Kashmir, in quite a few of my podcasts because a lot of the people that have I guess done these type of travels, whether it's to Mongolia, to the Sahara Desert, just somewhere which is very wilderness, very full of wilderness. Kashmir is like
Mm.
the closest experience I have to that, and the fact that I also live there as well. And the reason what made Kashmir's beauty was the very fact that it was in the Himalayas and it
Mm-hmm.
was situated in a valley, and you were able to do all this stuff like hiking, horse riding.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
Very similar. Of course, the one thing that the issue is the political problem, which made it difficult for
Yeah.
people to travel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like no place can be perfect, but naturally this place is beautiful and perfect. And I see Mongolia as the way you've described it being very similar.
Mm. That sort of energy, isn't it? Like that ancientness, the raw, the way people live, they're harmonious. They don't necessarily the richest country, but the way they community run, way they run their life with so much harmony in nature and all that, it's just like makes it so special. It's like every time I've been living in Australia 10 years now, so it's like every time I go back and I'll just see it in a different eyes and just so that admiration and like the pride for my own culture, it is really nice.
It's
Yeah,
very
nice.
good to go back once you've lived in Australia for a while to get that refreshing experience again. That's why I love going back to Kashmir from time to time. Like
Mm,
I'm due for my next visit, but of course we can't travel. So um, hopefully when I do go, I'll get that experience again because I think it's a good reset. It's good for a reset, and it makes you not worry about I guess the hustler life we have in Sydney,
yeah.
where you're always busy. I mean, it's crazy what it's like once I land back in Sydney and I'm like, I've got to do 101 things and I can't believe I have to do them, but it's because I'm in Sydney. But when you're in a place like Kashmir or Mongolia, you don't think like that.
Yeah, it's a really those sort of places very easy to be present live in a present moment. Here is like, and I guess they in this society and fast-paced city, it's like even though you try to be quite present, just focusing on the life and things you doing now, just do it well and be fully in there. But it's it's still again really focused on the what's the next thing, what's the next goal
Oh,
to achieve. Like it's so much of like future-based life. Therefore, I think there might be difference between like people live in Kashmir or people live in nomadic Mongolia. Like they so grounded and so different than compared to like city people here.
it's true. And this is an eye opener for a lot of people who only travel and go to holiday destinations and don't maybe spend extended time in, places which are far more, I guess, in touch with nature, rural, this type of thing. Um, Now, with that being said, now with of course with the inability of Australians being able to travel. We can't even go and see our family and friends in Melbourne. My sister's in Melbourne. A lot of my good friends are in Melbourne. A lot of our good friends are in Melbourne.
Yeah.
How have you found this pandemic in terms of what was going on in Sydney for you, and compared to maybe the community that you spend time with, and a lot of those people being over in Victoria?
Hmm. So yeah, Sydney for me is quite sort of new. Like it's going to come to like nearly 2 years living here, but it's like I still wouldn't like I most of my life in Australia in 8 years, and it's been in Melbourne, so I know more Melbourne people than the Sydney people. So for me, my Sydney pandemic has been actually personally it's been good because yeah, like I said, like I stepped into my the life coaching and it's going well, and also it's been really great for my relationship, and we get to spend more time even though he's working in our bedroom all day. But like there's no commute time, so at least in the commute time we spend time together and work on a relationship, and it's been great in that sense. And um yeah, but I feel very, very ready. Like it's been for many, many people it's been a tough time, and then also same time it's a really like necessary self-reflective time. But I'm sure many people feeling this way as well, that I'm feeling it's like enough is enough now. I'm really, really ready for to they be able to travel to Melbourne and see friends, and those people can even just do the things what at least we doing in Sydney. I just feel it's really tough thing to witness. I really feel for them. I have few clients who's actually you know very conscious and aware they're doing learning and growing and healing, doing a lot of healing work, but it's still this pandemic, they really struggle in like really getting to that depressive state, which I'm like, wow, people who like really self-aware in and doing the work and exercising and doing all the things they can, like they getting really down. But imagine people who haven't maybe stepped in a chance to step into that. I just feel it's like, wow, it's a mass situation. It's doing more damage than actually what they intentionally trying
You know
to.
what? I think you've brought up a really good point that hasn't come up on the other podcast, and it's the way you phrased it. Because okay, we spoke about the potential of their mental illness rising, and also people not being able to cope with the fact that they have nothing to do. Right? I think these things are very much some of the main topics of discussion that came up even before the lockdowns happened. Like, what happens when you lock down everything? Like, how do these people survive mentally? But
Yeah.
we didn't know that the lockdown was going to drag on for this long. Okay, especially in Victoria. Okay, in Victoria, we'll specifically say, and even those who put in all the self-development work, all the
Yeah.
nutrition, the training, the
Yeah.
mindset stuff, right? It's even hard for them. And yes, what chance then do the regular people who sit around eat nachos all day have? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
the main reason I see this happening is because humans naturally and humans biologically are designed to get out and move around and not be in the
Mm.
shelter for such a long period of time. We don't hibernate, unless it's really cold weather, where it's for the basis of our survival. But we don't hibernate that way. We don't. It's not. It's almost an unnatural way of life that counteracts our brain chemicals, our body movements, and mobility is always important. The more your body moves, the more you feel like you're alive. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I reckon that's how it is. So once you have reduced mobility over a number of days, it all catches up, and I think that's what we're seeing. What do you what probably the best advice you can give for both the people who kind of took a self-developmental approach and for the people who don't? What is the best advice?
I believe like I always go for meditation, because a lot of people now is spending time a lot in the head. It's like a lot of heady information is coming. It's the head being really bogged down. So I think meditation, learning meditation, and just kind of getting a little bit intimate with your own thought processes, because even though this pandemic is, obviously we have this biological needs to be in a part of a tribe and be out doing things in the community and society, but this pandemic also bringing it up is that how deprived, solitude deprived we are as a society. Everyone's always busy with someone, or busy with things, and bars, and like there's so much social things happen. And then now they have, like, first time in months and years, probably have this time alone, spending so much time in your head. So that's bringing up a lot, I think, bringing up the old stuff and things like that a lot. So
yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people have had time to reminisce as well and think about their life. And, don't get me wrong, I've been doing that too. But one thing I found was that a lot of the number of other guests have also mentioned meditation as a good form of being able to break away from what is going on. And right, there is too much information out there. I brought up when I speak about System 333, I call it as a map of reality for the age of information, because we're living in a minefield now. What do you think social media has become? How do you think it's affected the human psyche?
Oh my God, it's big time. I think that now, for me, every day I try to becoming a conscious human being through this, obviously, the global awakening that's happening. Me becoming conscious, it's me becoming a conscious of how much I using the social media. Like, am I using it to to numb myself and to kind of like feel part of myself that not really feeling, and just to have that approval and attraction, or am I doing it for intention to spread some message and actually feel connected? Like this is which is then, because at the moment it's the sort of only widespread social thing is like social media, yeah. But then what I had to do is, the beginning of the pandemic started, there was so much information, coronavirus, like I had to block Facebook and all the social media or the mainstream information so much. Like this creates sort of almost like boundary system, like I'm saying no to so many things, so I can mentally be okay being here. Otherwise it was just staying in too much of a worry state, like in the future this is that bad's gonna happen, this bad's gonna happen. It's really like, depending on how we use it, I think it can be very toxic. But then if you use it intentionally, and which requires a lot of conscious awareness, yeah. So like you have to be really aware of, connected to present moment, to be able to stop yourself from that scrolling. If you
absolutely. And it's crazy because I think social media and our habits on it have been ingrained over a period of years of use. Facebook's been around for well over 10 years now. I think we're coming at 12, 13 years. People have gotten used to using it, scrolling down their news feed, clicking on anything that's engaging. Instagram's the same. There's a whole lot of other ones. But I just sent you a video off. This was my System 333 trailer for my book. And in my book, in this trailer, I state, what if I gave you a map? What if I gave you a map of reality for the age of information? And then I will go in and discuss how there's all this information everywhere, and our brain doesn't have the ability to process it all really quickly. So System 333 was like a framework solution for that. Now, where is the biggest, you got to ask yourself, where is the biggest source of information that you gain that knowledge from? And social media is pretty much the answer. For at least for young adults that we know of. I mean, older people may still read the newspaper. Maybe they'll sit in front of TV instead of have social media. But we're talking people within the age 18 to 40 demographic. Social
Mhm.
media, even up to 45, social media. Um, what do you think? What do you think is the end game? What do you think needs to be done?
In terms of, I think for me, just people becoming more aware and conscious of our anything we engaging to. Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether it's a social media, it doesn't matter any actual social environments we're putting ourselves, like friends group and the work situation. Like it's just being aware of this, becoming more aware of this is really serving me or not. Like am I here for intention? Like I like to, like to come in intention to post something, put up the things, or just, or like when I'm going to that, to just to check out the feeds of the people. I never allow myself going more than 5 to 10 minutes. I know I've been I used to be in a scroller 30 minutes, just lost myself in there, but I know that's it's
It's a rabbit
really
hole.
that.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, rabbit hole. It's
It's
very
it's it's an absolute rabbit hole. And I
yeah,
mean, when we talk about rabbit hole, I guess there's a lot of subjective ways to interpret it, but I think it's just getting carried away. You can get carried away with anything. But like
yeah,
I mean, you can get carried away with money. You can get carried away with being so involved in your work as well, so that you're so tied to your job. Maybe you're working long hours. That's a rabbit hole in itself. Because you don't have time for meditation, time to step back and enjoy your life, and maybe go to a place like Kashmir or Mongolia to retrieve. And so, but I think social media is the biggest rabbit hole there is.
yeah,
It's actually the biggest rabbit hole there is. And the reason it is because it's free, easily accessible from anywhere in the world, and you are the product. At social media, you are the product, right? So
yeah,
not only do you consume information, you actually put out information too. And this is the insane thing where I think social media has sold itself. It sold itself to basically bastardize human life and thinking.
yeah, yeah. It's like, so the social media itself, it's not gonna change. It's gonna, the explosion of the information, it's only gonna get more. So there's only thing, instead of trying to we control like, how social media should run, and because that's never gonna reduce the
It
information
starts
anyway.
with
So
you.
it's exactly what we can control. We can control is, yeah, us, we have, as a human being, we have our four powers within us: the way what we think, and how we feel, what we say, and what we do in action. Yeah, so that's for our the powers. Like anything outside of that powers, it's like, yes, we can influence, but it's like we can't, it's not our fully, there's no point to like wasting too much of energy to yeah, to fight with it, resist to it. Like so okay, I have to, so my point is now is just, yeah, like let's become more aware of, like let's become more self-aware way we using things, way we using, okay, can I even create a sort of boundary between this time I can social media on the 30 minutes, in 10 o'clock and 3 p.m. this time, like even kind of create that system really helps the brain, because brain is not constantly being getting distracted and practicing distraction, because whatever we're practicing we become that, right?
Mhm.
Because yeah, so with social media I think we, like all of us, like many of us, well, practicing distraction, like constant bing and
Oh yeah, it
and
is. It is. The whole thing is an absolute distraction, if you ask me. And one thing I've noticed with social media as well is that it see it started from being able to be in front of your laptop, right? That's what it was. You're in front of your laptop, and if you're in front of your laptop, what will happen is you will pretty much use social media then. But now you can get it on your phone, and you have your phone in your pocket all the time. So social media became something you carried around with you rather than something that you would just access from your laptop when you had time to sit down and do that. That's where social media, I think, changed. There was nothing wrong with going home and doing a post on Facebook when you had your computer there. But when you're doing it at work, when you're doing it on the train, when you're walking, all that, that's what changed human life.
Yeah. And our brain becomes so vulnerable. Like we don't really know. Like, but it's our brain is only so much, and the willpower and brain activity on like and brain chemicals, hormones. I'm sure we have, serotonin. So, what's the hormone they induce when they actually do social media? I think
So basically,
serotonin,
dopamine, because dopamine's
dopamine.
fired.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the, only so much you can produce, right? And if you just constantly trigger and there's kind of flashing out of that through social media, like we probably won't left much in the actual when we like have a like spend time with the boyfriend. There'll probably be more. It's already done, gone and finished.
yeah. It's also one thing I think in this pandemic. So is people have been able to spend more time on social media now than before. That's the thing. And I think people had more time to go and search up all the information. Let me get to the bottom of this pandemic and found out the answer, who the secret
All the
powers.
information.
Yeah. Like who put this together? Was it the government? Was it the Illuminati? That type of stuff, right? Was it the one percenters? I think people now more so got really into that stuff, and not only that, but into different narratives, different news which they consider fact and fiction. And the problem is this happened all over the world, Seleng. Like it happened in Brazil, it happened in India, it happened
Mm.
in all different in America, especially we see China. No, everybody is confused with what's going on. It's not just in one country, and that I think we've never really seen on a global scale before since COVID. How do you see self-improvement changing after this pandemic?
For you mean like in general for collectively you mean?
Yeah, because of course,
Yeah,
in any type of situation, you see an evolution of a type of teaching sport. How do you think
yeah.
COVID will change self-development, or the pandemic will change
Hmm.
self-development coming out the other end?
Yeah, I'd love to know yours too, but I'll answer.
Yeah, I'll talk about mine.
And
What do you
so
think?
I like I said, like with my own the tribe and also the my clients, and I'm told while we're talking, what I'm hearing is there's a lot of people's the old trauma, old wounds, and old stuff that they never had a chance to look at, and they would just keep going in the speed of life. They just all surfaced. So everyone had to do some sort of like reflection and clearing. So I really have that really strong hope that everyone came out of this pandemic and they're clear about their values, clear about their life, like in terms of like you talk about the system 3-3, yeah, there's three triangles. I like to also really think about triangles like the relationship, health, and our purpose.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I believe, yeah, so those three are very big values of mine. So then I believe like this pandemic really gave people chance to reflect on that a lot, that like, what job am I doing? Is that really aligned to my and the purpose, who I am really becoming, is my health is robust enough to deal with these the viruses and all the other external internal stuff going on. So is my relationships also strong enough, the relationship with myself and relationship with others strong enough to, if I just go into this really challenging time, maybe lose a job and all this, that, like, is there people to support me,
Yeah,
like got
absolutely.
my
Yeah.
back, I think, I really think it's like really made people to reflect on that. So that I too, so therefore I really hope like people can come out of that, like, who get clarity around those sort of areas of their life.
Absolutely. I think it would give people a bit more clarity about their subjective worldview, how they see the world. It will change how people see the world as well, and how they see themselves in relation to the world.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why I said this is a worldwide thing. This is happening in India, in China, everywhere, America. This is going to be, and it all starts with the information, and people now have to step back and say, hey, how do I make my mind more clear until this storm passes? So when the storm does pass, I'm fresh and ready to take on life.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, tell me your view on that. What do you think people
So,
will be coming out of this?
so I remember I did a Facebook post. I think it was in April, and I said, "What after this pandemic is all over? What will life be?" It was phrased like that, and there was so many comments. I'm telling you, I think a lot of them didn't get it right because it's gone for way longer than people expected. But I'll start off with my original hypothesis, and then I'll talk about where I think it's going now. So my original hypothesis was that this pandemic would be for a long time because we weren't prepared. I saw it from firsthand working with business owners and the extreme measures that the country was taking. And I said, well, maybe the pandemic won't be on for too long, the pandemic itself. So the actual lockdown of the virus, right? Which in Victoria, it was much longer than Sydney because really, we've lived in Sydney, we've lived kind of not carefree, but a somewhat freer life for most of
Yeah.
the last 6 months, right? I went back to the office at the end of May. So my initial guess that the pandemic itself wouldn't be for too long, but the cause and effect, the after effect,
Yeah.
mainly social, economical, mental, which we've been speaking about because of people just sitting in their homes, is going to be
Stuck
drastic.
in our head.
Is going to
Yeah.
be drastic. And what
Yeah.
I think is the government really, in this country, just talking about this country, the government have been able to provide people the welfare. But what about what about the people? How are the people going to be? That's the real question. Um, I think it's going to be, again, part of my hypothesis, somewhat like the post or Soviet era. I don't know how much you know about the Soviet Union. I mean, Mongolia was next to the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So,
It,
what
we were a Soviet Union country.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me what do you know about the Soviet life or post-Soviet life?
Actually, I don't remember much because I was a child then. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, I was, I think, 6 or 7. So before that, it sounds for me like, like my parents would always say, oh, like, during Soviet Union life used to be so much better, like, but then obviously they love their old life. It's a very community-based life, but somewhat a bit of the dictatorship, like just the big people on the top that tell you, and then you have to just be a certain level of humble life you're forced to pursue. You were not allowed to be rich and have certain sort of like the business wasn't, you're not allowed to have a business and all that sort of things. But I think it had it's a cons and pros. I haven't
Yes.
really personally experienced it.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you've got that background from your parents because it does accommodate to this conversation. Because, for example, I had a friend from Belarus on whose podcast will be coming out shortly, and his family lived the Soviet Union. They had grandparents had a hard life, Um,
Yep.
Now, Australia in itself, because I always look at it as a country, never really had a hard life. We had the World War One, World War Two, but we weren't directly attacked. And those were the hardest period that we've experienced in Australia. But now, in a modern Australia, we will be going to experience something similar. And what that meant was that I think in the Soviet Union, life slowed down completely. And not only did life slow down completely, but the opportunities for people, young people, to be able to exceed or succeed in their life was limited. Um, and that, and it's been taking years for a lot of these post-Soviet countries, Romania, Hungary, like all these countries that were on that Iron Curtain, to recover, which we saw in the 90s, right? Late to early
Yep.
2000s, which became more touristic. Places like Prague,
Yep.
Czech Republic. I think Australia is going to have to go back a fair bit, and people have to start living slower, with less expectation, with more patience,
Yeah.
with more community-based, like you said, to be
Yeah.
able to get through life. And it won't be as crazy and I mean, people would like to, but people would like that, but I don't think it would be immediately as crazy and free as it was pre-pandemic. No,
Yeah.
might take
Yeah.
five,
Really
10 years.
good. Wow. Interesting. Good one.
It's
Hmm.
a lot to
Are
think
you
about.
ready to? Yeah, a lot to ponder about. So, are you ready to pandemic to be over? Are you ready to travel again?
I'm 100% ready to travel again. I wanted to go to Central Asia, which actually borders Mongolia, so I wouldn't have mind doing a trip to where you were, because I was in that same part of the world. What
Oh
about
my
you? Are
God,
you
you
ready
would
to
love
travel
that.
again?
I am ready to travel, go back to Mongolia, see the family. I'm ready for gatherings, any sort of gatherings, whether it's a traveling gathering and just the festivals, to like a bunch of people dancing together. Just bring that lightness and playful, like, joyful element of life. It's been way too serious, I think. It's good that people had to look at their life and dealing with the things they had to deal with. And maybe a lot of I'm hearing a lot of people had to like clean their garage. They they haven't been able to do all these years. Like they're doing necessary things, but then it's also, yeah, I feel like that missing, yeah, togetherness of the community, like playing, being, and just like carefree, brings like some sort of, like, everyone had this life and responsibility, and traveling and doing that, going to gatherings, gave us some sort of release and gave hope to life. Keep going, keep working, but I think last 6-7 months we didn't have that release, so, and as a tribal beings in our DNA, so it's definitely challenging. So I'm really, really ready for gatherings, music, and just that lightness.
Yeah, I think the summer's coming up, or it is coming up, but I mean, it's feeling like it's coming up sooner than later. It's been quite warm this week, and I think there'll be a lot more gatherings, a lot more people out and about, and you know, it's been really good having you on the show. With that being said, what is probably one of the main takeaways that people can get, if you were to give them advice on today, you want to make sure you're prepared to come out the other end of the pandemic. What is the best piece of advice you can give someone, the average person?
Mm, just take it day by day. Don't, it's a We don't have much information, and this, but just take it by if we just take it day by day, not just let go of um, the needing to know. It's been a really the practice about that, letting go of that. Yeah, uncertainty is such a big thing now. So then, if we just kind of know what's happening today and take the actions, what's in front of us today, and I think
You've got to be
keep us.
comfortable with
Yeah,
uncertainty.
yeah, exactly. And just that's the only way is that can like a focus on ourselves, our mental, physical, spiritual well-being. And we definitely, like everything, this shall will pass, they will pass. So yeah, take it easy day by day. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I took that approach earlier on. I said,
Mm.
there's no point planning. Don't plan about traveling. Don't plan about, you know, certain things. Just take things day by day. Enjoy the moment. Be busy. You know, find things that will keep you occupied, and focus on your well-being. And you know, my training's improved this pandemic. Everything is, you know, really positive,
Awesome.
and you got to make your life positive. That's the most important thing.
Definitely, definitely. Great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, no problem. Thanks for being on the show. How can people contact you if they want to find out a bit more about what you teach and what you do?
Mm-hmm. So I have a website called stepyoga.com. So it's STEPPE yoga.com, stepyoga.com. So also I have an Instagram. Facebook is more like my personal one, but Instagram, Selenge.coaching and Instagram. So maybe you can just put it in a show note.
Hey, you
So
know what I
yeah.
realized? I actually don't think I have you on my Instagram, or haven't come across your Instagram page, because we only, I just realized that.
That's cool. Yeah, so I'll send you off that, and yeah, that's a good way to approach. And yeah, in the website there's my email address as well.
Wonderful. It's been great having you on the show, and sure we'll have you on again. Hopefully we'll get to go to Mongolia and into the wild when
That would
travel
be
opens
amazing.
again. And everybody on the show, if you want to go to Mongolia, stay tuned.
Yeah, let's go Mongolia. Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. Thank you.